After emerging from one of the British military's most elite units, this former paratrooper had a grand plan: walk around the entire world. While the premise was simple, the actual steps turned out to be a brutal test of the man's strength, determination, and resilience as he battled his way out of arrests, warfare, travel bans, and a global pandemic. This week's episode is Karl Bushby's Goliath Expedition, Part 1. Sinisterhood. Well, you heard of this before I ever did. You just come across your FYP?
I believe it did, and I had never heard of it. Or perhaps it was a Guardian article, or I'll have to find the original article. But this time next year, his Goliath expedition, barring no unforeseen problems, should be wrapped up. So it was kind of like a year from now, this big thing is taking place. And I'm like, how have I never heard about such a fantastical journey that has true crime, danger, intrigue, a question as to just what's going on, bud?
What
prompted this?
Why though? But why, we still ask. No, truly, I think we in the early 2010s, the word epic got thrown around way too much. But in this case, I truly think this is an epic journey, like an epic quest in the dictionary definition of the meaning of the word. But it has been something that has been going on since before we changed the clocks over from the year starting with 19. And that's wild to think that something that started back then is still going on now. And you might ask yourself, how, why, what are even the logistics of walking? Well, we got you. If you're trying to retrace the footsteps, don't do it because we told you to. You undertake that at your own risk. But perhaps after these next 2 episodes, you'll see just exactly what all it takes. And it's a fucking lot.
It's a fucking lot. And it's your life, essentially. So, if you've got a family, then that's a factor.
That's a factor. Certainly a factor.
How are you going to see them? We'll find out. Well,
you know what? There's always a digital option. And that you FaceTime your family if you're across the world. There's a digital option too. If you're like, I want to see Christy and Heather, but I'm so far. How can I see them? In addition to our YouTube, where you can watch us, do the episodes. If you want to see us live on October 4th, you either have to be here in Texas. You can walk, take a bus, whatever. Or watch us on a digital via Keysway at sinisterhood.keysway.com.
If you don't want to walk all the way to Dallas, Texas from wherever you are, even if you're in Dallas, I would still drive because it's not a very walkable city, as we all know, but we would love to see you there in one way or the other. It's going to be such a fun show. I was thinking about it last night and just football's on. Despite Paris Brown saying tomorrow fall begins, the 96-degree temperatures are disagreeing with him. But mentally, I am in a fall mindset.
Yeah, this morning he was like, I guess today's technically the first day of fall. I said, you're about to go for a run. Let me know how that is. And then he came back and was like, it is. It feels like 97 out there. So it's when I get out to do my run later, I'm definitely going to take my my cooling towel and whatnot because it hasn't let up, but it doesn't matter because we're still ushering in the season of the witch, October 4th at the Texas Theater, Dallas, Texas. So go to sinisterhood.com/live shows to be there in person and to get your streaming ticket. It's going to be a fun time, just like you.
Check out the new shirt. That's on our socials. I got a message today from a friend saying, love the new shirt. So it is very dope. Go check that out. And if you're like, but I need water instead.
I want to go on vacation and watch you perform live. Have we got the deal for you?
Yes, with water around, and there's no walking because we're going to be cruising on a ship.
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
we'll walk around the ship, but
I won't. You're going to get, Karl has the beast. You're going to have to get a beast and carry me around in it and push me around in it like a little buggy. Well, go to sinisterhood.com/live shows for Season of the Witch info and Crime Wave at Sea 2025. All of it is on our website, and we hope to see you at both of the things. We have to figure out, if you go to one, obviously we are so excited to see you. But if anybody's going to both, in person, let us know because we got to give you a hug, a high five, something. That's crazy to be going to the Dallas, Texas Theater and also on the ship with us. So we can
please let us know. Yeah, we'll you'll get something.
Yeah, I'll think
honestly, I ran across some old Sinisterhood like merch recently.
Throwback merch.
Yeah, in the archive. So we got some stuff that would be fun.
There's all kinds. There's some strange ephemera I can give you out of the studio. I'm sure I've got a large
I told
collection.
you I've got like 10 cassette tapes that Tommy made of episode 13, which is like cassette. A fun thing to just have. So if you're going to both the Dallas show and the cruise show, you can have a tape.
There you go. Supplies are limited.
Supplies are limited. I will say that.
Well, I can't wait for both of them. It's gonna be a good time. It's coming up.
It's going to be so much fun. We're going to be travelers, just like
Karl,
the man we're talking about today.
Man, I definitely want to travel by a cruise ship and not by foot, seeing this guy's feet. My God.
Yeah, and the, just danger and inclement weather and whatnot you face along the way.
Definitely not my way to travel, but to each his own.
Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get into it. Karl Bushby was born on March 30th, 1969 in Kingston upon Hull, England. His father had been a decorated paratrooper, and Karl grew up in a military household that valued toughness and resilience. He was a boy fascinated by the natural world, calling himself a
very keen naturalist as a kid.
He would help injured birds and reassemble discarded animal skeletons. His happiest moments were outdoors, while school was a struggle. Undiagnosed dyslexia had Karl feeling left behind. In 1985, at just 16 years old, Karl joined the military.
If you think about learning disabilities in the 80s and how they were handled, they'd be like, sit in the corner and put the dunce hat on.
I think about that a lot. Like, that people didn't know any better, so it was just like, you can't read? Well, I don't know. Just, I guess, move on to the next grade. It'll be that teacher's problem. And no one had like the tools to teach certain learning disabilities. Same with like even things like being left-handed. You know, I mean, it was this very specific mold to educate within. And if you didn't fit that, then it was very hard for you. And I imagine you did feel very left behind.
Especially too, if you're from a tough family that's like, figure it out, toughness. So you're probably like, well, fuck it. This is my only chance. I might as well sign up.
Make dad proud and follow in his footsteps. Following in his father's footsteps, he enlisted in the parachute regiment. Training was brutal. He later admitted he was much smaller and less mature than the other men. He made 5 attempts at the regiment's infamous 24-week-long P Company selection course before passing. The course had a 90% failure rate and is considered by some to be the toughest military selection process outside of special forces. Once he passed the initial course, his service in the elite unit began.
His dad was like, the one thing that really made him a great paratrooper, despite his size, was the fact that he did not give up. That usually the military gives you like 2 rounds before they boot you. And the fact that he was like, failed twice and was like, no, let me try again. That's why they kept even letting him try again, is because he showed that impetus to want to, because paratroopers, as we're about to learn, do some crazy shit. And you want the person that's like, you knock me down, it doesn't matter, I'll get back up.
Yeah. He's like Eddie from the 2007 series of Hell's Kitchen, which we were forced to watch too many episodes of the other day.
You know what was going on in reality shows in 2007, but it should be looked into, because I would call it verbal and physical abuse on camera that was filmed, and people are just sobbing, and we all were like, more Gordon Ramsay, more.
100%. Oh man, Eddie. You
deserve better.
You got voted off way too soon, bud.
You deserve better, dog.
Yeah, for 100%. Everyone that was ever on Hell's Kitchen deserved better. And what's wild, just to go on a tangent about Gordon Ramsay, is he's really a nice person in real life. And he's like a philanthropist and does all these things for like children's organizations. He's a family man, but you tell someone you got to dial it up to an 11 if you want this reality show. And he said, bet.
You give me.
What do we call this? An idiot sandwich. If Gordon Ramsay held 2 pieces of bread on either side of my head and called me an idiot sandwich, I would disintegrate.
You just have to put my whole head in a panini press and just, I'm done.
Stick me in the oven.
Dog, come on now. Sinisterhood will be right back. Well, fall is in full swing and it's the perfect time to refresh your wardrobe with pieces that feel as good as they look. Luckily for you, Quince makes it easy to look polished, stay warm, and save big, all without compromising on quality.
Quince has all the elevated essentials for fall. Think 100% Mongolian cashmere from $50, washable silk tops and skirts, perfectly tailored denim, all at prices that feel too good to be true. I'm taking a look at those wool coats. I love myself a good looking coat. I feel like you could just be wearing anything in the winter. And if you've got a good looking coat on, then it just takes you from like a 4 to a 10.
Literally, and the opposite is true as well. You can have a nice outfit and you wear some raggedy looking coat. It's like, who is this? And you're like, no, let me take it off. I promise I belong here.
I look good under there. Well, you can look good outerwear and innerwear with Quince. By partnering directly with ethical top-tier factories, Quince cuts out the middlemen to deliver luxury quality pieces at half the price of similar brands. It's the kind of wardrobe upgrade that makes me feel smart, stylish, and effortless. Like, I always want to update my wardrobe, but I can't do that all the time. But with Quince, I'm like, this is a wonderful looking piece. It's going to last, and I didn't break the budget, and I feel very confident going out in it.
And definitely with Quince, once you buy that piece, it becomes a staple because it wears well. It lasts a long time. It's such high quality. My cashmere sweaters that I got last year, I'm like, these are basically brand new. They look so good. So I can't wait to bust them out.
Oh, yeah. I got it in wine and black, the modal V-neck tee. I've said I have it in every color. I wear them all the time. And I'll layer it with my Tencel denim chambray shirt that is so cute too. Yeah. And I just feel and look put together. Thank you, Quince.
Oh, yeah. Definitely the classiest pieces I have in my wardrobe.
Keep it classic and cozy this fall with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/creepy for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/creepy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/creepy.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
Well, known as paras, Karl was in the airborne infantry, trained to deploy rapidly behind enemy lines and seize key objectives until heavier forces arrived. They would parachute into dangerous terrain and have to run multiple miles with huge packs on their backs. The other men were hardened soldiers, while Karl recalled to Backpacker magazine,
I had a poster of the solar system over my bunk.
12 years in uniform hardened Karl, giving him intense anxiety that required medical intervention at times. Those years gave him both the skills and confidence he would later need on his journey, though they also carried a personal cost. His marriage collapsed in 1995, and his young son moved away with his ex-wife as they underwent a bitter, years-long split.
Which I didn't even think about how borders can affect relationships. And I think Karl's whole entire tale is about the different, bureaucracies that keep us separate. And it started with his kid because he met his wife in Belfast when he was under training, and then they moved out of there. And then when they broke up, started breaking up, he said Angela, which was his ex, moved back to Northern Ireland with Adam, who was like 2 at the time, like pretty young. And at the time, during the late 90s and early 2000s, Northern Ireland was going through what they called like the Troubles, which was these conflicts that were going on. And they said that basically, if you were you served in the military whatsoever, you had security restrictions, even on former military personnel traveling to Northern Ireland. So then it kind of kept him, again, you're like, well, I would, if I'm on leave from the paras, I'll go up and see my son. And it's like, no, you won't. She's now moved to a place that by virtue of your job, you can't even go and see him.
Yeah. Another tangent, or side note rather, I'm not going to go off on a tangent. Dairy Girls, excellent show, Irish, and it takes place during the Troubles. And it gives an interesting glimpse into like what was going on during that time. But it's a very funny and thoughtful show as well.
Nice.
But yeah, that was a whole thing too that like happened during both of our lifetimes. And it was, again, like in America, it's like many things even today. We're like, well, that isn't going on here, so that doesn't affect us. Well, it can and it should affect you no matter where it's going on. And Karl was personally affected by that one. By the mid-1990s, with his Army contract ending, Bushby formed a wild idea. He would walk an unbroken path around the world and only return home when his feet carried him back to his front door. He admitted to Backpacker that the concept started
That's a bad bet.
to prove himself to his fellow paratroopers and as a way to avoid the downfall of his marriage. Karl and his father then discussed possible continents he might visit. Later, Karl's father wrote to him, sharing a story about a few troopers he'd served alongside. The men always made plans to walk from London to New York by traveling east across Russia and the Bering Land Bridge. Karl wondered why they decided to stop in New York. Excited, he began plotting points on a map that would allow him to walk across the entire world in extended stretches. Over 4 years of scribbling maps, he refined the plan into what he called the Goliath expedition. A friend's mother had offhandedly called it
A bit of a Goliath.
and the name stuck. The rules were simple but absolute. No motorized transport, no shortcuts, and no going home until he had walked the whole way back. He knew that there would be 3, quote, gaps: the Darien jungle between Colombia and Panama, the frozen Bering Strait between Alaska and Russia, and finally, the English Channel. He estimated the whole thing would take about 12 years.
What a bit to take all the way. I mean,
A bit of a Goliath, you think?
A 12-year bit that you're like, I'll do it. I bet, like, Bushby wouldn't do it. I'll fucking show you I will. And cut to, it's now 2025.
Well, he's trying to prove himself and has been since he was a young child because of his...
Yeah.
I mean, his dad was encouraging it, which is nice. You want to encourage what your kids are into. One wonders, was he also doing it as a way not to just escape his marriage? And that was paratroopers were ending, but, to prove himself to his dad some more.
Well, and maybe even too, just as a former para, like depending on what you do in your service, it's very admirable. But if you're like, well, now I'm going out, I don't want to go sit in an office and type all day. Like, that's what am I going to do now? Not in a you're not qualified, but in the like, it's not going to fulfill that same need. So this is something that like ticks all the boxes of like fulfilling that need. And it's something that he can like help plan with his dad. The fact that his dad was like, you're not the first one, son, but you can be the best one. I'm sure also lit a fire.
Oh, yeah.
Plus it's a good brand, the Goliath expedition.
Oh, the Goliath expedition sounds great for sure.
Until the David expedition comes by and ruins it, hits you in the face with a fucking slingshot.
What needs to happen is the David expedition needs to start now. And he,
meet him.
or she or they have to complete everything the Goliath expedition has done, but beat him at least a day before he arrives back.
You running instead of walking. Yeah. I run 20 miles a day. You've been walking.
Dude, it's very Forrest Gump.
Yeah, dude.
On November 1st, 1998, Karl stood at the gates of one of the most famous cemeteries in South America, the Municipal Cemetery in Punta Arenas, Chile, as locals marked the Day of the Dead with a parade. With about $500 in his pocket, a homemade 2-wheeled cart he called the Beast, and almost no outside funding, he began walking north. The expedition nearly ended in the first hour when the cart's wheel broke within yards of the starting line. After a field repair, he carried on, fighting relentless Patagonian winds that forced him to lean so hard into the gusts, he said it felt like walking at a 45-degree angle.
You're like, wheel brakes. Fuck it. I'm done. Yeah. I'm going back. Get me a plane ticket back. The fucking thing broke. 1 hour in, man. That's relentless.
Honestly, that might have been my tipping point. If not that, for sure, when I'm at a 45-degree angle with just dust and wind and dirt blowing in my face. Nah.
I can't. I mean, it is a beautiful area, I'm sure. Like, to see. That's one thing about this whole trip. Although you see the photos of him and you see the footage of him doing it, and it's not glamorous almost ever. There are times we'll talk about, but like you still are seeing vistas that most of us only ever see on National Geographic or, some what you call like David Attenborough special or whatever. And he's just walking in the middle of it.
Like a documentary. I think about that when I'm watching like mostly like Mount Everest documentaries or anything like that. I'm like, wow, you're seeing something. Well, with Mount Everest at this point, I don't think it's the unicorn it once was. But I'm always like, at what cost? Because personally, I could not enjoy my surroundings if I was in that much pain. That's just me, though. I mean, some people might find it therapeutic, like people that walk the what's the trail that goes
Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, like that.
I do. I know. I really want to do that. I would break it up. Like I'm just weak. I'm not trying to like camp too much. I'm like, oh, I'll come do a chunk and then come back another year and do another chunk. But I had a friend that just did it like April to October and like badass gone with you. Like, man, amazing. Cause I don't have that in me. Cause he was walking about 20 miles a day and that does not have no effect on your feet. Like even if you have a great amount, I think he said it for, I'll get to the next point and I'll know with a boot count, but the boots that you're walking through are walking through you. Like they're eating through your muscles and feet.
Yeah. And then your feet get wet or your socks get wet. And that's how things start going down.
Gangrene.
Quickly. Yeah. When your feet can't dry out and you're getting like, once that happens, I don't know. You got to put them over a fire is what I've learned from all the the shows I watched, like Alone and Survivor and Naked and Afraid. I've never been in that position.
But I know some experts from Naked and Afraid.
With a few small sponsorships, Karl was able to keep going. Crossing the Atacama Desert, Karl faced long stretches without water. In Peru, he hauled his load up a 6,000-foot Andean pass, legs burning and sand whipping his face, before finding himself alone under a canopy of stars. Villagers often invited him in for food and shelter, and he later told Backpacker magazine,
South America was like a boy's adventure story. It was the happy experience I should have had in my teens. It was the best time in my life.
Well, Simon every day says, Mommy, we should go to South America. In fact, he said it just earlier today. So I'm going to show him this and be like, what do you want to do about it? He wants to go for the animals, which Karl encountered many. How would you not if you're just alone, just in the mountains? Anything could come upon you. Luckily, some of those are people that live in the mountains and are very kind strangers to take you in. But imagine you're just so parched. You've never been thirstier in your life. You're walking up a 6,000-foot incline, carrying a bunch of heavy shit.
Pushing that cart.
Yeah, you're tired. You're hungry. You're by yourself. Anyone that can do that and keep doing it has what I'm going to call gumption.
Dude, all my respect for sure. Like the idea of just walking that big of a 6,000 foot is a insignificant elevation change. No. And to do it with your because to just put it in your mind's eye, everybody, he's not dragging like something behind him. It's like a shopping cart type of thing with two large wheels like in front of him that is kind of balanced, and he pushes that in front of him, so you're pushing it upward in front of you. One wrong move, you're gonna get run down by the beast, by your own beast,
and you lose all your shit too.
Yes, it flies away on the mountain. A lot of moments of like that could have gone real fucking bad. But I will say, like, he's every time you hear him talking about South America, from interviews at the time all the way to interviews now, that was clearly like that's when the shit was still this early days when it just started. It's like any of us with the good idea we have. And in the first few minutes of it, you're like, this is great. And then when the fucking rubber meets the road, you're like, God damn it. Well, I've already started. Some cost, I guess.
It's me cleaning out my closet at 2 a.m. I'm like, I have the energy. This is a great idea. What have I done except take everything out of my closet, and now nobody can get into the room?
For real.
And now it's 4 a.m. and I do not want to keep doing this.
Like, sorry guys, you have to step over all that. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. I have a system. There's piles. Okay.
There's a lot of piles, and I got a shopping cart on the way that I'm calling Mrs. Beast. It's going to tie all of this together. Well, the first issue came in 2001 at the Darien Gap in the famous Medellin region of Colombia. The Colombian military warned him not to go. Guerrillas were fighting government forces there, and drug smugglers ruled the jungle. Karl ignored them. He vanished into 200 miles of dense rainforest for nearly 2 months, cutting through knee-deep swamps, letting rivers carry him on improvised rafts, and hearing gunfire echo in the distance. He later admitted it was one of the most dangerous things he had ever done. When he finally staggered out on the other side and into Panama, exhausted but alive, the police arrested him for entering illegally.
He said later that this was, quote, probably the best days ever. And I think it has a little something to do with the fact that he met a lady named Catalina in Colombia and fell in love with her. And they continued this relationship from afar for like 7 additional years. But the idea that you are battling like guerrilla fire and you still have time to be like, how you doing? And someone's like, hi.
Hi.
That's some game. That's some international game that
Some
I was
swag.
just like, God damn, dude, that you're, first of all, too, they're like, the government's like, don't go in there. You're going to get got. And he's like, I'll be all right. And he comes out with a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
The swag is unmatched.
And alive. Yeah.
Fucking unmatched.
And we're talking about gorillas, Guerr.
Yeah.
But
not the gorilla kind.
But those might have been around too. You don't know.
Colombia.
Knee deep. Did gorillas not live in Colombia?
I don't think so.
Well, I don't know where animals live. We've all established. I thought lions lived in Asia, which they don't, or China. I should go ask Simon.
Yeah, more like in the Africa area. But
okay, well, whatever. I'm sure there was dangerous shit afoot. Not just people, but snakes, all sorts of big cats, all sorts of swamp creatures.
The other thing that you have to be afraid of is not even ginormo things, is that bugs, ubiquitous bugs. And he's in one of the scenes I saw of the footage, he's like asking somebody, do you have the Mozzie spray? And I was like, God damn it. You are not just getting, like we get mosquitoes from around here and whatever flies in. You have walked to expose yourself now to bugs, both literal and the physical, like bacterial type, that you like, imagine the immune system this guy has. Like nothing's gonna, they should have just, we'll get to COVID in part 2. I think you should just let him keep going, because if anybody's got it, it's this guy. He survived every possible thing from like microscopic to like literal giants.
Yeah, he may have cured it somehow. Right. Just walking around. We all get a little bit of that swag and immune rubs off on us.
Sinisterhood will be right back. If your dog could talk, they'd warn you about what's lurking in their bowl. Mass-produced kibble isn't just unappetizing. It could be a crime against canine health. Mysterious byproducts, unpronounceable preservatives, and who knows what fillers. Sounds more like evidence from a crime scene than dinner.
Ollie is here to crack the case on pet nutrition with fresh, human-grade meals made with the highest quality ingredients. There's no mystery meats, no artificial junk. It's just real, minimally processed food made in U.S. kitchens. It's the kind of clean eating that keeps tails wagging and noses sniffing for more.
Here's how it works. You just fill out Ollie's 30-second quiz, and they'll create a customized meal plan based on your pup's weight, activity level, and other health infos. Then get expert recommendations. Ollie crunches the number and recommends the right recipes and daily portions for your precious pup based on hundreds of thousands of real dog results. You'll then get your welcome kit. For any first-timers, Ollie will send out your pup's first box with 2 weeks worth of meals and a guide of how to gradually switch them over to their new diet. Finally, customize your plan. Ollie offers 3 meal plans to choose from, so you can choose between a full fresh plan, fresh topper plan, or a mixed plan with their freshly baked recipes for your special fur baby. They also have treats and supplements, and don't forget, Ollie is the only fresh dog food that comes with unlimited routine health screenings, so you can get your pup on track to living their healthiest, happiest lives. The food's good. The pup tainer's good. I was giving the dogs the Ollie treats the other day, and Lucy jumped up off the ground and bit my hand to get it out of my hand. She wanted it so bad. She likes treats. She will attack me for an Ollie treat.
Give me it, mother. Give it to me, mother.
Oh, they love it.
Well, yeah, Kate loves it the same. And so does Petal. So we got to keep that pup tainer up where she can't get it now. But it lasted through the
pig attack.
The pig attack. The tenacity of that pig is something to behold. And
it's high quality.
Pup tainer lasted throughout it.
Dogs deserve the best, and that means fresh, healthy food. Head to ollie.com/sinister. Tell them all about your dog and use code SINISTER to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today.
Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/sinister and enter code SINISTER to get 60% off your first box.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
Karl spent 18 days in jail before authorities verified his identity with the British Embassy and released him. He made it through South America from 1998 to 2001. By then, he had gone from Punta Arenas to Patagonia in Chile and Argentina. He then traveled to northern Chile, up through Peru into Ecuador in the Andes Mountains, and finally to Colombia. Sounds exhausting.
That's a whole continent, my dude. You really looked at the map and went like point A, point B. I'm gonna go right.
Let's do it.
What do you do when you start at the bottom? There's nowhere to go but up.
I appreciate that he had like 3 simple rules, because
for dating his teenage daughter. Yeah.
When you dial it down to that, it's like you don't have a ton of tenets you have to live by. So it's easy for you to like stay on your course that you originally set up. And one of those is, I don't go home until I walk there. So if you want to get home and you don't want to break your creed, there's only one way to go.
You're like, I'm either a man of my word or I'm a fucking liar on a bus, and I'm a man of my word. And like,
and my feet still fucking hurt after
dude.
all that. What was it for? I mean, I'm sure you still learn a ton about yourself.
Yeah.
But that's your goal, is to make it home. From there, Karl pushed through Central America and Mexico, sometimes detained at borders, until officials realized he was
that British man walking around the world.
He went from Panama City to Costa Rica, on to Nicaragua, then Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, and into Mexico. From there, he headed northbound toward the U.S., crossing the border April 29th, 2002. By mid-2002, Karl had walked nearly 12,000 miles.
I would walk 12,000 miles. That's so many thousands of miles. And so many countries. Like, you're just getting that passport stamp, buddy.
Your fucking Fitbit has exploded. Caught on fire, tracking all these steps.
Right, that's true. Wait a minute. 2002, he was doing this in the days before Apple Watches. So none of these steps count, by the way, Karl. I don't believe you on any of this. Unless you're wearing a Fitbit or an Apple Watch. I don't trust that any of this happened.
Did Fitbit not happen in mid-2000? No, I guess Fitbit was like late 2010s?
Yeah, probably like 08, 09 and up from there, maybe something around there. 2014 kind of hitting in, and then starts competing with the Apple Watch.
He categorized them with a tally mark, I feel.
That's it. He
in
just
a
had
journal.
One of the, like those little clickers when people walk into a theater or something.
Yeah. For every step. Oh my gosh. In Mexico, in the American Southwest, Karl endured intensely hot conditions, drinking from cattle troughs or carrying gallons of water at a time. He walked up through the Arizona border into the Utah-Nevada area, then through the Pacific Northwest. He crossed into Canada via British Columbia on February 13th, 2003. He then continued north through Canada from interior British Columbia through the Yukon along the Alaska Highway region, arriving in Alaska on May 1st, 2004.
They said from the bottom of South America to arriving in Alaska that he went through 9 pairs of boots. It's like, honestly, fewer pairs than I thought it would be.
And like
fewer pairs.
The different climates and terrain you're traversing, you have to pack light because obviously. So it's just layering stuff. But then, you know, you're like either drenched in sweat, you're freezing. Where is there like, this is nice. Maybe at night when he's resting under a canopy of stars and he gets to, but you would never fully be physically content, you know?
That's what, yeah. I feel like that is a very accurate assessment, especially because you can't really rest because he's not in a lot of places. I mean, absent there, you know, somebody letting him in and saying like, yes, come stay with me, which happened in a lot of the places. But other times he had a tent and he would just find camping areas and like pitch a tent. So you're sleeping outside this whole time. And there's footage of him sleeping. And it just so happens to be like the tent's near like a train track. And he's just like, the trains go by like every 5 minutes. Like, I am not going to get to sleep. I'm not. And it's just, you're quite literally adapting to your circumstances. And he's just like, didn't sleep good tonight. I guess I'm just going to try again tomorrow. And you get up and walk somewhere else, try to sleep somewhere more quieter the next day.
I have admiration for, I mean, it really does push you to your own personal limits when you're doing a solo trip like this. I have always wondered how I would thrive or maybe just survive on nothing this extreme, but you know, like just any kind of a solo retreat. Given the right circumstances, I think I do great. But if I am in a situation where like I feel danger, I'm out of my elements, I'm by myself and I'm like physically hurting and missing people, man, you got to dig deep. And I would really have to be doing it for something almost like bigger than myself to continue on.
No, I agree. And he says, there's footage of him filming himself, and he's just like, I haven't seen my son but a few times. In 2004, his son was like around 14 and came to visit him in Alaska. And it was like the first time that he saw his son physically in person, and, you know, taught him like cross country skiing, telling him a little bit about the trip and like giving him updates on the trip. And the kid is just very obviously curious about it, as one would be, kind of understands like, my folks are split. This is what my dad is doing. Okay. And his son later said, like, I went to go visit him in Alaska thinking, like, what is it about this trip? Like, why is he picking this over us? And then he's like, I went and was just like, this is just who he is. This is just what he does. And the son's like, I'm flying home just going, this is who my dad is. And he said, I felt so much peace after that, going like, that's my dad's journey. My journey is different, and that's okay. But Karl's perspective, Karl was like, you can't justify that. It's a heavy cross to bear, and it gets heavier. And like, I don't see my family. And interesting, like,
but
interesting
you
choice.
could, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have a gun to your head. So this is all your own doing. And what a mature way and, you know, thoughtful way of thinking about something like that when you're 14 years old to, you know, and not be bitter and resentful that like your dad doesn't need to do this. I mean, maybe for his own mental reasons, he says he does, but like not anything beyond that. It would be hard for me to digest it, like, well, he could see us, but instead he's walking across South America.
Yeah, and this is I think, obviously extreme example given what Karl's undertaking is, but I feel like a very common parent-child relationship, you know, touch point, which is to say, my parent is making these choices that hurt me, and my parent thinks they have to keep making these choices and won't stop making these choices. And I think as a kid, as soon as we realize like, oh, it's not me. My parent is a separate entity that's a separate person, that it's not that my dad's walking around the world because he doesn't love me. My dad's walking around the world because he feels like he has to do that. And to bring it to a personal side of it is like, my dad's not smoking all the time because he doesn't love me and is going to die. It's like, my dad is a separate person who makes those choices. And you do have to kind of come to this realization that it's weird, right? When you kind of go, oh, my dad isn't just my dad. My dad is a man named Karl and is his own man. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he had me is a one point in his whole life, and realize
a big point, though.
One would say
maybe the biggest. And I'm coming at it from a parent's point of view.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, yes, parents are their own individual people. For many parents, when you bring kids into the world, they're like, maybe I walk twice out of the 2 weeks out of the year, and then I come home and spend the rest of the time with my family. But, you know, if the son seems like he's okay with it, and I don't know how the ex-wife feels, clearly, I mean,
well, they were separated. Yeah.
it destroyed what short relationship they had in the first place. But it is, it's a weird thing, especially like, and I talk about this in therapy a lot, like when you're going through something when you're 14, all you have is like your 14-year-old brain to make sense of it. As an adult, you have your adult brain and all that information and hindsight and life experience to look back and be like, I didn't have the words at the time or the language or really even like the full understanding to know this was affecting me, to know this was wrong or something, you know, not Karl's thing. I'm talking about vaguely my own stuff, but you know what I mean? Like sometimes when you're just like, this is just how it is. It's how my family is. And then you grow up and you're like, oh, not everybody's dad walked across the world in a few years. Not a few years. He's still out there.
But you wonder if it's just a sunk cost thing that, you know, you're now 7 years into something, and in a separate interview, like years later, Karl's like, it was always just mission first. It was always mission first. And
I wonder if he got that from his own dad.
Sounded like a refrain that was repeated to him somehow, either by the military, you know, or his family. So
yeah. Yeah. And, you know, you've got people that are cheering you on. So
Well, and
even though you're alone.
I think you're right, though, that like there's parents all day long that do things that are take them away from their kids that are very dangerous things that are like serving in the military, protecting our country, you know, first responders or, you know, doctors on call, you know, sorry, kiddo, I got to miss your thing. I got to go do open heart surgery.
A waitress that has to work a overnight shift
forever. Yeah. Cause you can't log out. Cause if you log out, you can't pay your rent or whatever. But I think, and there's people also who have come to the United States for a better opportunity and are sending money back home and through either, you know, financial reasons or for immigration issue reasons, can't go back and see their family and maybe don't get to see their family for whole stretches at a time. But like you said, it's like in that situation, you know, there might be a different, but in his, I don't know. I don't know what the end game is. I haven't heard it, but we can continue along the journey with all that in our pockets.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting, just like social experiment for so many people involved, honestly.
Certainly.
In Alaska, Karl was swallowed by snowstorms. At one point, the blizzards were so bad, he advanced only a mile in 3 days. By early 2005, after 7 years of constant walking, he reached Fairbanks. Karl received aid in the form of small sponsorships, as well as help from his folks back home who crowdfunded his walk. Karl's next steps would carry him beyond roads onto drifting sea ice toward the Siberian shore.
He said it was the deadly endeavor that could make or break the expedition. I'm like, deadly. Alrighty, let's go. Take the first step, bro.
I mean, if you made it through that Colombian jungle with like just guerrilla warfare around you and you came out of it with a girlfriend, I feel like the Siberian shore, you've got it on lock.
You can take it. You can take it.
He can take anything. But a mile in 3 days that may have been it for me. Oh, just like having to hunker down and like, again, walking at a 45-degree angle. I do not like being cold. I don't like shit flying in my face that's cold. So this would be a real hard part of the journey for me.
And the ground just moves, so that sucks.
Yeah. You could just fall through ice. Yeah. I
don't want that.
Which is so fucking scary. Anytime I see frozen lakes and people ice skating, I'm like, you don't know though.
You're asking for it. You're asking for it.
No.
No, seriously. He's gone through like, if the world is levels like Mario, it's like he's going to like he went to the super hot level. Now he's in the desert level. Yeah. Now he's in the ice sheet level.
Well, he's about to be in the underwater level, which nobody likes the levels.
No.
Nobody likes the underwater levels. They're the hardest.
I hope he finds a star.
Right? Or that brick he can just bang his head against that coins just fall out repeatedly.
Sinisterhood will be right back. Have you been looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort? The CBD gummies from cornbread hemp are formulated to work with your body, not against it. I'll tell you what.
I felt like I got because you know that meme right now when it's like, you look happier on TikTok and it's like, thanks. Cornbread recently came into my life. That is mine right now.
For real, dude. The gummies, man, I felt like I got hit by a freight train the other day because I ran 5 miles and it was very hot when I did it. And the relaxation and loveliness I get from the CBD gummies from cornbread hemp, as well as any cornbread product I've ever put in my mouth has made my life better. I'll tell you that.
Cornbread hemp CBD gummies are made to help you feel better, whether it's stress, discomfort, or you just need a little relaxation, which all 3 of the above. Did you take all those? Then this is what's for you. They are formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness, and they're available in 3 delicious flavors: watermelon, berry, and your girl's favorite, peach. I'm so glad peach is becoming like a normalized flavor because they're my favorite fruit. I love peach flavored things. And the peach CBD gummies from cornbread hemp are delicious.
We're peach queens. We want peach should take its spot amongst the rightful place of fruit flavors, and we're going to make that happen with cornbread. Right now, Sinisterhood listeners can save 30% on their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/creepy. Use code creepy at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/creepy. Use code creepy. Sinisterhood will be right back.
In March of 2006, Bushby set out across the Bering Strait with French endurance athlete Dmitry Kiefer. The strait is a 51-mile wide stretch of ocean between Alaska and Russia, where the Pacific and Arctic Oceans meet. In the middle sit the Diomede Islands, only 2.4 miles apart, but divided by the international border and the dateline. For much of the year, shifting sea ice covers the strait, creating a dangerous, freezing highway of moving floes and open water.
They said at the time no one in recorded history had ever walked across it successfully from east to west, which is, Godspeed. I think there's a reason why. It's a fucking frozen highway.
Gotta be the first. Yeah. Or it's nothing that's meant to be done, and you're going to get added into that numbers. Karl and Dmitri battled ice floes that carried them far off course, forcing them to cover 150 miles in 14 days to cover the 51-mile wide stretch. Temperatures plunged to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. They dragged 200-pound sledges over 30-foot ridges of ice, swam short stretches of open water, and, as Bushby later recalled to Outside Magazine,
"We threw the supplies overboard, the shotguns, the radios,
to lighten their loads as the ice disintegrated beneath them."
I mean, if you're on an ice floe and it just starts floating away and you're like, well, we really need to go 20 feet to the right, and the thing just flows you 150 feet to the left, you're like, well, I guess we just sleep here until we float back or find another one to float back on. Nightmare.
Or it starts to sink, and you're like, dump what we can, which are your weapons, your radio. I mean, essential things that you need. But if you analyze everything you have, you're like, well, we have to have food and water. Mm-hmm. So I guess we dump these over. It's horrifying. I can't even, this sounds like something that if you're lost at sea because your ship sank, you'd have to do, not something you do by choice.
Right, exactly. It's like desperate measures, because literally it's like the shotguns or we die, throw it over or else.
Yeah. It would be nice to have a French endurance athlete with you at this time for some, moral support and guidance.
Yeah, lest we think that it's easy to be out by yourself, because a lot of the footage that I've seen of him, it shows Karl. I mean, it takes a turn on his mental health, and there's times when he's just like, I don't even well, I can't believe I'm doing this. Getting existential out there as one does, I'm sure. So yeah, I'm sure if somebody else is like, we can do this, man, we'll do it tomorrow. And Karl said in one of the videos, we're not meant to be like this. We're not meant to be alone. So I'm like, damn, good for you for having a buddy for part of it.
Mm-hmm. On April 1st, 2006, they reached Siberia. His father, back in Hull, told local reporters the feat was
momentous,
especially because
the ice was breaking up behind him as he walked across.
The triumph made international headlines, but it was short-lived. Russian border guards arrested them immediately for illegal entry.
I would be so fucking mad. So what Karl and Dmitri did to get their visas is they went through a legitimate company that says we can help you get visas if you want to visit Russia. So he's in I think Spokane or Seattle, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. They go through the legal process and they're like, yeah, everything's good. Here's your visas, all square. It's in Russian. I don't know that they didn't read Russian or didn't read it so good, but they get there and the Russians are like, this says you're going to come in via a plane into a totally different city. It would be as if you swam up in San Diego and it said, you have a plane ticket and it said you're going to land in Lincoln, Nebraska. Why are you swimming into San Diego? And you're like, I never said it. He's like, we never said we were going to arrive by plane. So the company they got to get them their visas fucked them. So then you roll up and you look like you're breaking the law, and you don't want to look like that in the fucking Siberian Russian gulag area. So it's pretty much worst case scenario when they're like, let me see your papers. These are the wrong papers. Come with us.
Yeah. Siberia is not for the faint of heart. I would also be like, guards, have you not read the 3 rules I have? Because one of them is I only travel by foot. So we couldn't get here by plane. I would have loved to, because this was a bitch. I don't know if you've done it. Aces. I wouldn't. 10 out of 10 do not recommend doing it.
Even I would sit in the last row by the bathroom before I would do any of this. I would be okay with it. I don't sit in a jump seat. It's fine.
I'd stand in the bathroom while someone was taking a shit the entire way before I
can face
did
them
this.
Spider style, if you're on a swing together. I will straddle someone taking the nastiest dump of their life if I don't have to walk across ice floes. But I guess the visa company was like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I'm going to walk. And they're like, we're just going to tell him he's going to fly in. It's fine. He'll probably end up doing that anyway. You don't fucking know Karl Bushby, dude.
No, you don't. You do not. Karl faced the possibility of being banned from Russia permanently, which would have ended his dream. He and Dmitri were detained in a hotel in a remote settlement in the Russian Far East while their fate was debated. Back in Britain, Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott, who was also Karl's hometown MP, intervened. He appealed directly to the governor of the huge, sparsely populated Arctic region. The back channel worked. After a few weeks, a Russian court pardoned Karl in May of 2006, allowing him to continue. Dmitri returned home, but Bushby pressed deeper into Siberia alone. From 1998 to 2006, Karl traveled about 2,000 miles per year.
Sometimes you got to call in a favor. No shame. No shame at all.
Do what?
Sometimes you got to call in a favor. If you're rotting in a hotel in the remote settlement in the Russian Far East, you're like, I don't care what you have to do. Suck a dick to get me out of here.
Yeah.
Like, figure this out.
I'd rather be back on the ice floes because at least I was free.
Exactly.
I could make my own decisions. But this is, you got to call in a favor. I'm sure his dad helped out too. And also, I don't fault Dmitri for being like, this has been fun, but I'm out.
And I will bid you adieu, my friend. Thank you so much.
luck.
And I think it was planned that Dmitri was only going to do it for a stretch. And I'm like, shout out for staying as long as you did. Although I don't think if you're in the middle of an ice floe that's floating away that you could be like, I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty much the only way out is through.
You only have one way, truly. That is interesting, though. I wonder if it was because it was the most dangerous part, but also, I mean, I feel like all of it is deadly. But truly, like, the possibility of drowning is so high or freezing to death compared to maybe other dangers encountered in walking that if something happened, you want somebody there to go back and tell everybody.
No, for sure. And a lot of the walk from South America, not from South America, from like Central America, especially once he hit the US, he was basically walking on roads, like, walking opposite cars. So cops pull you over and kind of go, what's going on here? And he's like, I'm the British guy walking across the country. Google me. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay. You all right? Everything's okay. See you later. So that's really kind of all you're hitting. So you don't really need anybody to roll with you if you're just doing that. But you're right. Once you get to the point where it's like, I'm going to just vanish into whiteout conditions and my family's going to go like, Siberia got him.
Yeah.
Like, at least there's somebody here to be like, well, he got on an ice floe and sunk. And then I saw him float away. He said, tell my family I loved him. At least there would be some sort of a track of what happened to him.
For sure. Over the next years, Karl faced a brutal combination of climate and bureaucracy. Russian visas only permitted 90 days of travel at a time. In winter, Karl traveled through Russia using frozen rivers like highways. Once melted in summer, thaw turned his highways into slush. Progress was agonizingly slow. By 2007, he had managed about 620 miles into Russia. In 2008, delays left him with only 3 weeks on the ground before the thaw stopped him. Because his visa expired every 90 days, he had to leave Russia intermittently. Sometimes he flew back to Mexico, where living costs were low, or stayed in neighboring countries until he could legally re-enter.
That's crazy to have to leave every 90 days, too, just because of bureaucracy.
Yeah. And
because we said so.
That happens with a lot of places. And so I guess he had, his rules. If he needed to leave somewhere because it was out of his control, he could get on a plane. I imagine in those moments, you're like, bring me every drink and pretzel bag you have. Just soaking up all the rest you could possibly get.
No, truly. I think his rule was like, as long as I'm not making forward progress in travel. So, going back to Mexico, like, you've already been there. So I guess it doesn't count.
Yeah. That same year, the global financial crash wiped out his sponsors. Karl was stranded. From late 2008 to 2010, Bushby stayed in Melloc on Mexico's west coast because it was cheap. He confessed to backpacker in 2011.
I'm 42 years old, and I'm broke, and I'm homeless.
He showed a journalist his wallet, which is 20 pesos, worth less than $2 US, to his name. He survived by sleeping on couches, walking locals' dogs, and living off the kindness of strangers.
And I think the whole time he was hopeful that it would all turn back around. Like, he didn't just go back to Hull and like call it. He was like, I just have to wait it out. And the person that did a profile on him at the time was like, this man is like perpetually optimistic. And it seemed as if Karl felt that he was always just like a phone call away from it starting again. Like, a sponsor could call.
Yeah.
A documentary film producer can call. A TV producer could call. So it was like he was living, as Taylor would say, for the hope of it all.
Yeah.
And he
Truly.
It kept him going.
Cancel plans just in case. My
Netflix
calls, the documentarian calls, and I can be there. But I think if you are needing to survive off the kindness of strangers, Mexico is one of the best places he could have been. Like just people willing to take in this man who does not look like them, does not sound like them, is filthy, hurting, and just be like, come in, get a load off. I'll cook you the best homemade meal you've had in years.
Like, come on in. And I think that's what his favorite parts of the journey seem to be, when he said, I really get to learn how people are and how like very similar we are just across the world, of just wanting to share a meal with somebody, tell them, he goes, I get to tell them what I've been through and they get to tell me what they're going through. And I get to hear all these different stories of how not only people struggle, but how the struggling people are the ones opening the doors to him and letting him in and feeding him.
Yeah. And so many times that's the case. The people with the littlest are the first to help because they know what it's like.
100%.
By 2011, Karl had scraped together enough to continue on his mission with the help of the entertainment industry. Jordan Tapas, a documentary producer, and Beau Willimon, creator, executive producer of House of Cards, stepped in to support Karl. They provided him with about $30,000 and a video camera to get from Mexico up through Chukotka, Russia, to continue documenting his journey with the hope of turning his epic walk into a compelling film or documentary. Money and camera in hand, Karl headed back to Russia. In a burst of progress, he walked nearly 700 miles across Yakutia, reaching a small remote town in northeastern Siberia on April 25th, a huge milestone. This put him at the Road of Bones. The road got that name because it was built during the Stalin era in the 1930s through 50s by prisoners in the Soviet Gulag system. Many thousands died from exposure, starvation, exhaustion, and accidents during the road's construction. Because the ground is permanently frozen, burying bodies was nearly impossible. Instead, the remains of dead prisoners were often laid into the roadbed itself. Locals say the highway is literally
paved with bones,
which is why it came to be called the Road of Bones.
Not the kind of road of bones I'm trying to take a trip on.
No.
Hey. For real.
But this is very similar to Mount Everest. Speaking of Everest, is like someone dies up there and they just get left. And it's kind of the rule of the mountain. I mean, they either lie there for years, decades where they fell, or, other things happen. But they don't come off the mountain to get buried.
No, and no one's like, well, let's use labor and time and effort to do something that respects people who we treat as usable pawns in our dastardly scheme. So I don't know that, Stalin was like, everyone deserves a decent, respectful burial. It was like, chuck them on the pile with the rest of them. Who gives a shit? So it's interesting to see what happens when humanity is disregarded for a large swath. And it's like you literally create a highway with bones underneath it.
The first true road since Alaska, the Road of Bones could eventually carry Karl west to Europe. As it connects to Russia's border highway network, the road offered Karl a continuous path west, all the way to Europe. But when he applied to renew his Russian visa for 2012, the application was denied. He later learned he had strayed into a restricted border zone during the previous year's trek. In March of 2013, Russia issued a 5-year ban on his entry. Karl's father, Keith, told The Guardian at the time Karl planned to appeal, saying,
Karl isn't going to go down without a fight.
They estimated the appeal process could take 4 months.
So 2011 was his last winter in Russia. And then, you got to wait for the time and just get this thing back that goes, no, we decided we didn't like where you went last time, so you can't come back. And it's like, I'm just walking, man. I didn't do anything. It was like he's snooping around.
And why is it always Russia? You're the ones that are continuously fucking up his plans. But why didn't you tell him?
Why is it always Russia?
Why didn't you tell him back then when he went into an area you don't want, which first of all, why can't he be there? What's going on there?
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell him then? Why, wait, my theory is they just didn't want him coming back, and it was kind of something they just threw on to make up an excuse to get it tied up in paperwork.
you kind of got to look at the timing as well. And I do think there was a lot of geopolitical issues going on at the time. It was not too long thereafter that you started seeing Russia sort of broach into Crimea. Not that Karl is U.S., but when there's U.S.-Russia tensions going on, UK is an ally to the U.S. So it's kind of like, well, we don't need to do your buddies any favors either. So Obama and Putin were kind of like posturing at each other at this time. So something, a Western person walking through sort of perhaps offended them. I don't know. Or he really did stray into a restricted border zone and it was an oopsie and he didn't know. I don't know that everything's like real well marked. But
Yeah.
a 5-year ban is like a ban, especially if he has successfully been coming and visiting and traversing your land for almost, a little bit less than a decade. 2006, I guess, is when he first got to Russia. This is 2013. It seemed to me like kind of, we just felt like it.
Yeah.
We'll show you. You can't come back. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah. Like you've proved, in my opinion, you can be there. You're trustworthy. Yeah. You're not up to nefarious things. But, Russia be Russia.
They be Russianing.
For the second time, the expedition looked doomed, but Karl refused to let go. In 2013, American filmmakers Beau Willimon and Jordan Tapas proposed a bold idea. If he couldn't walk to Asia, why not walk across the United States from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., and use the publicity to lobby for his reinstatement? Karl's
immediate reaction was a vomit reflex.
He admitted to Outside Online. The thought of marching 3,600 miles in the wrong direction horrified him. But with no other option, he agreed.
Wow. You're like, well, I guess I'm technically going the wrong way, or I'm going to sit here for 5 years. Like, that's your two choices. It's like you sit here from 2013 to 2018, not seeing your family or just quitting. And you don't want to quit because now you've been at this, years and years. What a choice.
Well, like you said, it's the sunk cost fallacy. And the immediate reaction of vomit reflex is so relatable. I'd be like, I'm sorry. What did you just suggest to me?
He's like, please don't make me do it. Although I would say it looked pretty fun. Like, I want to road trip across the U.S. I'm not trying to walk with a pack across the U.S.
No, I'll road trip and I'll get out and take some nice hikes, but I'm not walking across the whole thing. In October of 2013, Karl began walking again, this time east across the U.S. desert and plains, pushing a modified shopping cart full of gear. Over the next year, he trudged 3,500 miles. The journey was filmed for a National Geographic documentary called The Walk Around the World, which captured both his physical hardship and his private struggles. Along the way, his adult son Adam joined him for a segment, giving them a rare chance to spend time together after years apart. Adam was just 8 years old when his dad set out from South America back in 1998.
The documentary has an extra kind of tension point because at the time that it was filmed, Adam was expecting his first child. So Karl the whole time is waiting to hear if he's going to be a grandpa. And so he's like, sometimes I'm walking in places that don't have cell phone service or I'm trying to get phone service. So he basically went like LA to Las Vegas. Good news, when you get to Vegas, they're like, do you want to stay in Caesar's Palace? We'll welcome you. So he did. He got like a welcome. He got to see some shows. So that's kind of good. Then you go to Colorado and you're like getting drunk with the college kids. And he's like, I love America.
Getting and foot massages anywhere you can.
Anywhere you can. Cutting the rotted part out of the bottom of his feet. It's horrific. And like playing beer pong though and like belly button shots. But then you really can see that he's struggling with this loneliness by not only leaving the party. He's like, you're at a party and you're having so much fun. Well, the party's over. And they all have gone home with their family and their friends. And that fun, weird walker guy is just out walking by himself now to a tent that no one's in, waiting to check to see if there's a granddaughter that he's not going to meet for several years, like on it. And just having him get those messages and, being like happy that he got the message, but not so happy that you get on a plane is interesting.
No, not so happy that you flew home beforehand to be with your son when he was expecting his first child.
Yeah. And the other thing is the timing as well, because, this walk was a couple months and the baby is born. And then a few, in my opinion, not very long after the baby was born, weeks, months, he's telling Adam, like, get out here. I want to see you. So now you're getting and so Adam comes and visits him in South Carolina. I think he meets him in Charlotte. North Carolina, I guess, because Karl walks out of South Carolina, meets him in Charlotte, and then they spend like 11 days, walking together. And Adam's like, I feel very like my eyes are open. Like I can literally for the first time, like physically see what he's doing, move with them. And he's basically like half man, half machine because Adam is younger. Like, it's your dad. So your dad's in his 50s now, like out walking you every day. You're like hard breathing and stuff. But it seemed to have given him like a wonderful memory that they had. But it's definitely sad later when Adam's back home, like showing the kid is now walking. Like, so, like you start to see like you're really missing a lot.
And it looks like a generational thing. Like Karl's dad was very strict and regimented and, had kind of a one-track mind. Then we get Karl, whose son is also vying for his dad's attention and willing to drop everything, like leave your wife and newborn baby to go spend time with him. You're already exhausted. And now you're like, by the way, you want to walk 20 miles a day?
Every day for 10 days and fly and be jet lagged. Yeah. I mean, Adam said like, it was a lot more than what I thought. I'm glad I came out and did it. But they kind of asked like, do you want to see your dad keep walking? And Adam's like, I mean, he's come this far. Like, yeah. I mean, at some point, I think you probably see how important it is to your family member. And you're like, would I rather you be with me having birthday cake every year? Certainly. But like, this is obviously something that has gripped you.
And, you have known this since you were 8. So while you might have longings of a different relationship at times, you also seem to have come to kind of terms with it. Like, this is my dad. This is our relationship. I cherish it when we're together, but this is kind of his journey. And once again, like takes a lot of like inner confidence and reflection and maturity to have that opinion of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and if your time with your dad is going to be, you can either come and walk with them down the road or like FaceTime him, then that's the time that you take and you take it.
By late summer 2014, Karl reached Washington, D.C. He stood outside the Russian embassy, waiting and hoping. For months, nothing happened. He was told repeatedly that no one had ever seen a Russian visa ban like his overturned. Then, in October, the Washington Post ran a story on his quest. The attention forced a response. On October 23, 2014, the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs lifted the ban and issued him a new visa. Karl admitted to cameras in his National Geographic documentary.
Everyone put so much time and effort into this. I just feel incredibly guilty not wanting the visa, almost as much as everyone else.
He had been preparing himself for the expedition's end, but now the open road stretched out before him once again. So what do we think?
It's fascinating the time to see the real-time footage of him saying, well, I'm actually scared today that we're going to get the visa. Yeah. Like, why am I scared? What's that about? That's weird. And he's like, well, 16 years on the road, that's what that's about. But interesting that the idea that almost like he just had accepted that it was over. And all of a sudden, Russia, he expected that it's over. And then Russia's just like, oh, yeah, the Washington Post article, send us a letter and we'll see what we can do. And his attorney's like, that doesn't happen. None of this happens. Like, you basically, part of a visa is you have to get a letter of invitation from Russia. And he's like, people that are banned don't get letters of invitation. But much like with a lot of things, when you get into an autocracy dictatorship, that like the rules are kind of just made up and at the discretion of the dictator. And so the dictator looks bad, therefore let guy back in. So it really was, Bo Willimon and Jordan Tapas were brilliant for being like, just shine a light on it and be like, hey, you see how Russia is taking Crimea at the same time that they're also fucking with this guy? And Karl's kind of this feel-good story, right? He's like a fun, roustabout British
like
guy.
A hero's journey.
Yeah, and everyone's like cheering him on and letting him in and feeding him their food. And like, you're going to be the one country that bans him for 5 years because he stepped over a line, really? And so I think you're very smart to put a dictator up, on an image issue. And they tend to like to go, oh, well, sorry, it was just paperwork.
That is like, what they tend to be their Achilles heel, is their own vanity and how people perceive them, for sure. I think if you've already kind of mentally prepared, this is the end, I would also like have mentally imagined what that would look like and like going back home and resting and stuff. So it's like one of those things where you're like secretly hoping maybe it doesn't go through because you have an excuse to quit. But like he said, everyone has put so much into this that if you do get that visa and then you say, no, then
No
what
thanks.
about the documentary that was just filmed? What about the past over a decade of your life that's been given to this that you haven't seen your family, your kids, your grandkid? Like, there is a ton of pressure to keep going and see it till its finality to prove to yourself and everyone else that like this wasn't for nothing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. What's this been all about? He said he saw his dad like one time in 15 years. You know, he talked to him on the phone, send messages, FaceTime, etc. But like, that's a very real thing too, is that like an aging parent, right? So understanding all that you're giving up and that you have given up, because it's like, even if you quit today, you know, before you get the visa, that's still 16 years that you've now spent away from your family when it's this visa thing. And I just sort of was like, meh, like that's what made you give up. I didn't make you give up. Me graduating high school didn't make you give up. Interesting. So I think there's also that. Yeah. Yeah.
Do we think this is selfish of him to do, or is this, you know, he's living out his dream? And I'm interested to hear what people have to say in comments and stuff, because I could see it from both sides. But part of me's pulling in one direction over the other.
Well, it's hard to watch truly, like the disconnect, the connection that can happen, but it's perhaps not the same connection. And I mean, I don't live in somebody's relationship, so I don't know. But when you see him talk on FaceTime and Karl says to the son, like, I'm so glad you came out and visited. It was great. And Adam's like, yeah, I'm happy I visited. And Karl's like, we reconnected, didn't we? And like, you can see it's like important for him to know, I haven't ruined my son's life. He's his own man. And I think Karl also thought, oh, well, when Adam's like 18, he'll just come out on the road with me too. And Adam was like, I love you, but no, like I have a job. I've got a girlfriend, like fixing to be wife, like, you know, yada, yada. He wanted a rooted life and a rooted family. And one wonders if it's perhaps becoming from a family that is not so rooted, that by virtue of your dad's vocation, I guess. But Adam's like, yeah, we reconnected. We did. Oh, look. And then, like I said, he, you know, shows the daughter walking in the background, and it just hit me, you know, Karl has made this dedication, you know, that he wants to do, but he's missing now a second life, a whole other life. And there's, like we said earlier, a bunch of people live like this. They can't see their family due to circumstances. And I think that's probably what's so fascinating about this to all of us, and why we were like, yeah, let's cover this, because like, you're the only thing in the way.
Yeah.
Like, and
but
like,
we're our own worst enemies so often.
But also, like, your word, it matters. And so if you've wrapped up your whole integrity into a single promise that you've made, you don't want to break that promise. So it's something to be said about promises kept.
To play devil's advocate for a moment, one also makes a lot of promises when marrying someone and agreeing to have a child with them that, you know, they'll help raise them and be in their life.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole thing is their marriage broke up before all this. You know, he didn't say, we're married, I'll be back, honey. Like, they were divorced. They had a pretty acrimonious divorce. And then she did take him to a place where he can't even go see his kid anyway. Does that mean he's never, ever, ever going to go visit his kid? Or can't
Maybe
fly him
your
out?
Journey changes.
That's a great question. Or you try to, you know, work as hard as you can, but it's definitely heartening, at least, to see that Adam seems to have, not only at the time of the original, you know, documentary that was made with the walk to DC, has made amends with his dad, like loves his dad. You know, I'm not going to tell him they have a bad relationship, but it's definitely heartening too to see, like, there's a comment on the YouTube version. Karl posted the Nat Geo on his own YouTube, and the top comment is from Adam, and it's like, you know, you always impress me, like, this is so amazing to rewatch or whatever. And it's just like, I guess you just got to be in awe that you've got a one-of-a-kind dad, that nobody else has a dad like this.
Yeah I would be interested to have Adam's documentary,
or
of
memoirs.
of cameras following his life through, and the whole family, of like what it's like on the other end of that, of not knowing if your dad is alive, not hearing from him for weeks at a time, only seeing him when you take the time to fly out and then agree to walk across the country. You're not even like just sitting on a beach catching up. But it is very telling, I think, for Karl to phrase it as, we reconnected, didn't we? Reassuring himself that I'm not fucking up my family, because clearly that thought has occurred to him. I'm sure many a times when you're out there in the freezing cold by yourself, you're like, what is all this for? And only he can really answer that.
Yeah, it's your one wild and precious life. What are you going to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the choice he made. It's definitely gives you perspective on your own life if you go back and look at what some certain, flashpoints, turning points you have of like, this could have changed. This could have been different. If I only would have made this choice and it would have been different. And I mean, I'm only 38. Karl's in his 50s. His feet are a lot more beat up than mine. He's seen a lot more ground than I have. And it's like, I think you're going to just hurt yourself. All you ever do is hurt yourself if you're like, I should never started on this. Granted, the question becomes, once you say, I shouldn't have started on this, do you say, now is a time that I could quit?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this man is, he's a para, baby. He's never going to quit.
Yeah.
And some of them are cut from a different type of cloth than I am. And that's a different life.
No, that's true. That's a good point, because if it becomes like, this is no longer fulfilling,
mm-hmm.
I'm only doing it to fulfill a promise, but I'm miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And you do only have one precious life to live. Like, where are your priorities? Like, which one, when you're taking your last breath, are you going to be looking back on and be more fulfilled by? Spending a life with your family, spending a life honoring a promise you made and seeing the world, and rarely seeing your family.
Yeah. And I think that is a lot of choices that people make with the professions that they take. It's just like we said, this one's not, one of the normal professions that one sees of like, oh my gosh, you became a secret agent for the CIA or whatever. And so you have a whole fake life where you're on SEAL Team 6 and you just go, hey babe, I'm going to be out of town this weekend. Don't ask me why or what I'm doing. That's one thing. But I think because of this, we're all like, we can kind of see what you're doing. You're like kind of having fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes.
It's different than like
not.
Immigrants' parents working 24 hours a day to provide for their kids to have a better life, and they never see them. That is different to me than this. But who am I to judge anybody? So he's still out there walking, and we're going to talk more about it. And
we'll let you know where he's at. We'll update you where he's at, where he went from here and where he's at.
Maybe you've encountered, if you've ever been somewhere and Karl Bushby has shown up, please write into Freaky Friday and let us know. Because, I mean, as long as this has been going on, there's a chance that somebody out there listening to the show has encountered him at some point.
Particularly if you know somebody who let Karl Bushby come stay in their house. Because I would. Like, at first I was like, they're just letting a man in here. But like, out of this many years, I'm like, he's not going to go around and start attacking people now. No, that's crazy.
They've heard. And I think like, you see how beat up he is, and he's just like wanting to fucking lay down. Like, he doesn't have the energy to do anything else.
No, he's not coming back through Dallas. But if he was, I'd have let him in. I'd let him park the beast out back and take a load off on the sofa. But I'd
let him come to the porch and tell us some stories for sure.
Absolutely, Karl. Anytime.
We'd live stream it for everyone too.
You're invited anytime.
Absolutely. As always, the devil rules the airwaves.
Keep it creepy.
This episode of Sinisterhood is made possible with the help of our amazing patrons.
If you're interested in supporting the show, consider joining our Patreon. You'll get access to ad-free regular episodes, weekly bonus content, you're able to vote on episode topics, join our monthly live streams, and more.
Keep it creepy.
Mwah.